Water is necessity, like you need it, it's essential. It's good, but in a lot of areas in Thailand as a whole, not just Bangkok, it's still something that people can't afford to have.
My name is Danny. I'm actually born here in Thailand. I think it went back in, if I recall correctly, maybe 8 years ago when we have a major flooding in Thailand. I mean, the whole place over here was totally flooded.
Well, let's now turn our attention to Thailand, where floodwaters are threatening the main road in and out of Bangkok. The water is edging closer to downtown, threatening to submerge subway stations. Well, the central business district remains dry for now, but other areas of the city are already inundated. Authorities say more than 500 people have died in 3 months of flooding across Thailand.
All kinds of transportation basically was halted. Even the bus can hardly, move through the city. And during that time, I think a lot of people experienced not only the flooding in terms of the road, but the disaster that happened at their homes. Everything was basically destroyed. And it took us around, I think, overall, maybe over 2 months before we can, come back to the home and start renovating. The government did help a little bit, but mainly everybody was on their own, trying to recoup from this situation.
So my name is Naj. I'm obviously Thai, so I'm from here, from Bangkok, and I used to live in right in the center of the Bangkok, but now I live a bit further away. So back in 2011, I was about 15 back then. It was the first really terrible flooding that I experienced in my life. So it was all over Bangkok and into other areas nearby as well. It was really difficult because the water level was so high and it got into the house, but luckily it wasn't affect my area, but then all the other areas, I couldn't go anywhere else. I couldn't go to school. It was as bad as in some areas the water level could go up to the roof, so obviously people couldn't live there, and it was so difficult to evacuate everyone out in really short time. The only thing I could help out with was that I took some food and medicine and water, and then I went out on literally a raft that was handmade.
If there's flooding, we experienced this 10 years ago where it's a major disaster, we leave the city, no choice. Some of my friends basically, they built dam around their house and then tried to drain out the water, but end of the day, what happened is that they learned that, even though your house is protected from water, but you cannot use a sanitary, you cannot use a toilet, so it's no use staying at home. So if there's major flooding tomorrow, basically leave the city, run away, and once the water subside, we come back and then we clean out the damage, and then we start all over again.
It's a city that was built on the foundations of clay. But today, Bangkok, a thriving hub of trade and tourism, is sinking. According to Greenpeace, the Thai capital is sinking by 1 to 2 centimetres per year, and there is a risk of massive flooding in the near future. Climate experts say it could be inundated within the next 10 to 15 years.
ชื่อชัยอายุ 63
อยู่ที่นี่มานานหรือยัง
ก็ 40 กว่าปี ก็การดำรงชีพแบบไปหาซื้อของซื้ออะไรหาลำบากหาซื้อลำบากไม่มีแถวนี้ไม่มีแต่อุโมงค์มีปี 26 เยอะก็เยอะอ่ะท่วมเลยหัวเข่าขึ้นไปอย่างเงี้ย
ได้รับความช่วยเหลือ
ก็มีนิดหน่อยอ่ะแต่ว่าไม่เยอะเท่าไหร่ ตอนนั้นก็ทำมาหากินไม่ได้อ่ะแล้วก็ต้องหาของกินลำบากอ่ะไม่ค่อยหรอกเพราะว่าเราเชื่อว่ามันความเจริญมันมาแล้วก็การระบายก็ดีขึ้นเนี่ย
And after that, or after the major flooding, we still have flooding throughout the city. Just to give you in perspective, like a couple days ago, we experienced a bit of rain. On average, maybe it takes us around an hour to go home. With a bit of raining, it took us almost 2 hours. It's two things that the government has to understand that we have a seasonal rain coming through every year. So whenever it happens, we always have flooding. And to help this prevention, I think that people, not only throw the waste, into the pipe, but also the government has to understand that, the way they drain the water, you need a basically good distribution of, what the pipes and to drain out the water. And I think this is where the government lacks.
Water research is quite important because water is life. It's related to our daily life. It's related to all the time. Every activity you need to drink, you need to live with it. To me, is to do some kind of research. Especially the water resource research in Thailand is very scarce in some space.
Yeah. So for me, very similar to him, but we experienced some water disaster all the time. When I was a kid, there's a lot of flood in front of my house, and there are cockroaches come out of the sewage system. And then I feel like, oh, why I have to experience something like that? Sometimes even I have to walk on barefoot on a dirty water. So when I turned to be an engineer, when I try work on water resources, I feel like, oh, I did something important for the society. So now I became a professor, something like that.
สวัสดีค่ะ หนูแพตตี้นะคะ หนูเกิดที่นี่แล้วก็โตที่นี่มาตลอดเลยไม่ได้ย้ายไปไหนเลยค่ะอยู่ที่นี่ตลอดเลยหนูชื่อตี้ค่ะเป็นเด็กในตลาดค่ะผลกระทบของน้ำท่วมนะคะก็คือน้ำก็จะขังบริเวณนี้ค่ะไม่ระบายเลยจะทำยังไงก็คือทำอะไรไม่ได้เลยค่ะก็ต้องรอให้น้ำระบายอย่างเดียวใช่ค่ะคือน้ำท่วมก็แบบหนูยังเป็นเด็กนักเรียนแล้วก็แบบหนูต้องเดินทางบ่อยมากแล้วหนูก็ไม่รู้ว่าแบบหนูต้องทำยังไงนอกจากแบบคือหนูต้องช่วยเหลือตัวเองตลอดไม่เคยได้รับการช่วยเหลือ
During the mega flood on 2011, people try to protect their house using sandbags, something like that. And after the flood finished, they just throw the sand into the drainage system, and it clogged the drainage system. So after that, when it's rain come to that area, so more flood happens too. So people awareness is also very important. I mean, we should cooperate about engineering and society together.
ใช่ค่ะน้ำท่วมเลยหัวยังไม่เคยแต่ว่าถ้าน้ำท่วมแบบมาถึงแบบตุ่มเข่าอย่างเงี้ยใช่เคยแล้วก็ไม่ได้รับการช่วยเหลือเหมือนเดิมเวลาน้ำท่วมนะคะมันก็จะแบบว่าทำให้เรารู้สึกว่ามันแบบสกปรกอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเพราะว่าพื้นมันก็ไม่ได้สะอาดอยู่แล้วอะไรเงี้ยใช่ค่ะส่งผลเสียมากคือไม่ใช่ว่าเป็นลูกคุณหนูนะแต่ว่าแบบคือน้ำมันสกปรกแล้วถ้าเราเดินแบบเท้าเปล่าไม่ได้เอาอะไรมาป้องกันขาอย่างเงี้ยมันก็แบบเหมือนคันๆใช่ค่ะแล้วมันอยู่ในตลาดด้วยมันก็จะมีแบบว่าเศษผักเศษเนื้ออะไรเงี้ย
อาตมาเป็นผู้ช่วยเจ้าวาดของวัดนวลนรดิตวรวิหารนะก็ชื่อพระมหาพุทธิเมธ ปีนี้ก็55นะปทก็เรียนทำ8ประโยคนะแล้วก็ศาสนศาสตร์บัณฑิตนะอยู่ที่นี่มาก็27 ปีถ้าพูดถึงในบริเวณวัดนะเมื่อปีรู้สึกว่าเราจะประสบปัญหาน้ำท่วมใหญ่เมื่อปี 2554นะที่ว่าน้ำท่วมใหญ่ในกรุงเทพมหานครก็ในวัดเราก็น้ำท่วมอยู่ประมาณสัก23 วันนะถามว่ากระทบกับการดำเนินชีวิตประจำวันอะไรหรือเปล่าก็มีบ้างแต่ว่าก็ทำกิจวัตรได้ตามปกตินะไม่ได้มีอะไรที่ได้รุนแรงมากนะ
Well, for now, I think that the main problem about the research about flooding in Thailand is because we don't have enough data accessibility, and so we're trying to increase more drainage system efficiency or something to increase more resiliency of the Bangkok flooding. Then.
Yeah, and not only that engineering stuff that I think, actually, in my point of view, some kind of regulation and some kind of people participant also very important. We do not have like a kind of very good zoning that if this area have a high flood risk, so there should be like no high building, or it should be maintain the nature to be the place that no people like take a risk there. And also we still do not have a regulation that people who use use the water supply and create wastewater should pay the money for that wastewater that house create. So we will have more budget to do more work, something like that.
เรื่องของน้ำเนี่ยก็เป็นปัญหาใหญ่นะไม่ใช่เฉพาะที่วัดอย่างเดียวก็เป็นทั่วๆไปยิ่งตอนนี้สภาพอากาศของเราเนี่ยของโลกมันก็ร้อนใช่ไหมปัญหาน้ำเนี่ยต่อไปในอนาคตเนี่ยก็น่าจะหนักขึ้นแต่ว่าทางวัดเราเนี่ยก็มีหนักสุดก็ปี54ตอนนั้นก็ปกติเพราะว่าเรามีประตูน้ำกั้นนะกั้นระหว่างแม่น้ำส่วนมากถ้าเกิดเวลาทำท่าฝนจะตกเนี่ยเจ้าหน้าที่เขาจะสูบน้ำออกน้ำในคลองนี่ก็จะลดจะไม่ค่อยมีปัญหา
I think personally, water means life. Personally, I think water is the basic necessity of everything. So it's very important that we have a clean water and clean water for everybody. But I think that people overall, they take water for granted. And I think this is why, people that don't really understand how to really preserve water. I give you an example. Whenever it rains, if people understand that we save the rainwater, for clean water and be using in the future, will be a lot better than just let the drain wash away and then maybe we end up using maybe only 30% of the waterfall and the rest we just drain it down the drainage and the river.
From my point of view, because obviously I don't want to speak for the people actually doing the work. They might have done their best, but the results is not enough. Obviously, people suffering a lot, and it's been like this for years, and nothing has changed. And in Bangkok, obviously you live in the capital city. Everything is kind of fine for you. You don't really see any problem with water apart from flooding. That's probably the most terrible thing I could experience in Bangkok. But people outside the areas, not too far from Bangkok, not that far away, they don't have clean water to wash their faces. And it happens every year. It happened just last year as well. And they couldn't get any help just because they're not in Bangkok. I think that's what, if you ask me what water means to me, that's what comes up in my mind. Yeah.
น้ำมันก็ดีสำหรับคนต่างจังหวัดแต่คนกรุงเทพน่ะมันไม่ต้องการเพราะว่ามันเป็นเมืองที่เจริญแล้วมันก็ไม่จำเป็นมากไม่เหมือนคนต่างจังหวัดที่ก็ต้องใช้น้ำใช้อะไร
น้ำคืออยู่ในปัจจัยที่4ของการใช้ชีวิตค่ะถ้าไม่มีน้ำก็คือตายได้ใช่ค่ะน้ำคือเป็นสิ่งที่ไม่มีวันที่จะหมดไปแล้วเราก็ต้องแบบจำเป็นที่จะต้องใช้อยู่ทุกวัน
น้ำก็คือปัจจัยดำเนินชีวิต อย่างสำคัญที่สุดของมนุษย์เลยนะแต่ว่าตอนนี้น้ำเนี่ยบางทีมันควบคุมไม่ได้นะบางทีก็มาจากทางข้างบนบ้างมาจากที่อื่นบ้างเราควบคุมไม่ได้เราก็ต้องอยู่กับน้ำให้รู้แต่ว่าหน่วยงานภาครัฐของเราก็ดีนะมีการแจ้งมีการเตือนที่ทันสมัยขึ้นอนุโมทนาด้วยโยมเรียบร้อย
Yeah, as I told you, water is life. We cannot live without it. Actually, it's involved in many activity, daily activity. Like when you wake up, you need water. Yeah, when you eat, you need water. When you sleep, maybe you need some water.
Yeah, for me, water is very similar to a living thing. They can born to be water. They can die, evaporate into the air. And then they reborn again, come back to be water in the land, in the sea, something like that. I think it's very interesting and it's very similar to a circle of life. So I think water is almost everything in our living things. So yeah, that's what I think.